It's a Tuesday morning in February, and I'm sitting in a gas station parking lot in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, staring at a half-finished notebook on my passenger seat like it personally offended me. I'd been working on a novel for going on 3 years at that point. 3 years. I had 17 different notebooks. Each one started with the same electric feeling. This was going to be the one. This was going to be the notebook where everything finally clicked. The longest I'd ever gone was 42 pages before I convinced myself the whole idea was garbage and started something new. 17 notebooks. 0 finished drafts. I was basically the world's most enthusiastic person who had never actually done anything. And the worst part, I wasn't lazy. I worked hard, in short, passionate bursts that burned bright for about 4 days and then disappeared completely, like a campfire somebody forgot to tend. I didn't lack the ideas. I didn't lack the desire. What I lacked, though, I couldn't name it yet, was the one thing that doesn't care how you feel on a given morning. So I'm sitting there with my gas station coffee going cold, and I decide, right there in that parking lot, that I'm done. Some people are writers. I'm just a guy who buys notebooks. I drive home, and on the way I pass the old Henderson place. Now, the Henderson place was a collapsed farmhouse about 1.5 miles outside of town. Nobody had touched it in maybe 15 years. The kind of place kids dare each other to walk through at night. But parked out front is a beat-up white truck I'd never seen before. There's a man out in the yard, pulling boards off the old porch. By himself. I almost didn't look twice, but something made me slow down. I figured it was a developer, some company buying up old properties to flip. Because that place, trust me, nobody with any sense would take that on alone. The roof had caved in on one side. The foundation was cracked clear through. Half the windows were boarded up with wood that had long since warped and split. It was a disaster. I kept driving. Forgot about it before I even got home. 2 weeks later, I'm passing by again. The truck is back. The man is back. Same guy. Gray flannel shirt, work boots, no crew, no equipment trailer. Just him, a pile of lumber, and what looked like a handsaw. I pulled over. He was maybe 65, built like someone who'd done physical work his whole life. I rolled my window down and said, "You buying this place?" He looked up. "Already bought it." "You're doing all this yourself?" "So far." And here's where I made a mistake. I said, and I genuinely regret this, "That's going to take forever." He didn't get offended. He smiled, went back to measuring a board, and said, "Probably, but it'll be done when it's done." I drove home and thought about that for maybe 45 seconds before I forgot about it entirely. But I kept passing that house, every week, sometimes twice a week, and every single time, the truck was there. The man was there. The progress was slow, painfully slow, but it was always there. By April, the collapsed porch was gone, and fresh framing had started going up in its place. Clean lumber against rotted wood, like a tooth growing back in. By June, the roof was patched. You could see from the road where the new shingles met the old ones, 2 different shades of gray. By August, the windows were in. Actual glass. Actual frames. The place was starting to look like something a person might live in, rather than something a person might get lost in. By September, there was paint on the siding. White. Simple. Like he wasn't trying to impress anybody. I never stopped to talk to him again during all of that. I told myself I didn't want to bother him. The truth was, something about watching him work made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't explain yet, like watching someone do quietly and steadily the exact thing you've been failing at loudly and in bursts. It wasn't until October, 8 months after I first slowed down on that road, that I finally figured out why. I was at the hardware store in town, and he was in line ahead of me buying door hinges. We recognized each other. He nodded. I asked how the house was coming. He said he was about 3 months from moving in. I stood there for a second, doing the math without meaning to. 8 months of solo work. No contractor, no crew. Just a man, a truck, and the same gray flannel shirt showing up week after week. So I asked him, I couldn't help it, how he kept at it. How he showed up every single week without a crew, without any guarantee it was going to work out, without anyone watching or keeping score. He set his hinges down on the counter and looked at me for a second. Not impatiently, just like he was choosing his words the way you choose a board, making sure it'll hold weight. He said, I show up because I believe it's going to work out. But if I stop coming on the hard days, that's the only guarantee of failure I've ever known. He paid and left. I stood at that register long enough that the cashier asked me twice if I was ready. I drove straight home, not to the couch, not to the television. I went to the closet where I'd thrown all 17 notebooks, and I dug out the most recent one, the one I'd been ready to abandon in that parking lot in February, and I opened it to page 43. I wrote 1 page. Not because something shifted dramatically inside me, not because I suddenly felt inspired or worthy or ready. I wrote 1 page because I finally understood what I'd been watching for 8 months through a car window on the way to work. That man wasn't rebuilding a house on talent. He wasn't rebuilding it on confidence, or on certainty, or on anyone telling him it was a good idea. He was rebuilding it on the one thing that doesn't care how you feel on a given Tuesday. The quiet, unchosen feeling decision to show up anyway. I had spent 3 years waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right idea, the right mood, the right version of myself that was finally worthy of finishing something. And that man spent 8 months quietly proving that the right version of yourself doesn't arrive before the work. It comes from it. So I wrote 1 page that night, 1 page the next night. Some nights it was half a page. Some nights it was slow and grinding, every sentence wrong on the first try. But I didn't close the notebook. I didn't open a new one. I stayed on page 43, 44, 45. And I kept going.
If this story lit something up in you, even just a quiet flicker, share it with someone whose light has gone a little dim. Subscribe to this channel and come back in a couple of days. There are more stories where this one came from.